Money Mike stands perfectly still, the sharp lines of his office framing him against the skyline. He leans forward, the wood of the desk creaking under his weight as he taps the surface rhythmically. What if I told you that just $100 could be the difference between staying broke forever and becoming a millionaire? He holds the silence, letting the question hang in the air until the tension becomes palpable. Then, he reaches into his pocket and produces a crisp $100 bill. He holds it between two fingers, letting the light catch the edges before dropping it onto the desk. It lands with a soft, definitive sound. He does not look away from the lens. His gaze is steady, calculating. People look at this and see a week of convenience. They see takeout, subscriptions, or small, forgotten purchases that bleed their accounts dry. But I look at this and see the foundation of a future. He taps the bill once more, sliding it toward the edge of the table. Most people assume wealth is a product of luck or a massive salary. That is the lie that keeps them trapped. The truth is far more mechanical, and it starts with the choice you make right now. Miles away, the atmosphere shifts from clinical precision to claustrophobic clutter. Jake sits on the edge of a sagging couch, his space crowded by the remnants of his routine. Empty takeout boxes are stacked in a leaning tower on the coffee table, and unopened delivery packages block the path to the window. He pulls his phone from his pocket, the screen flickering to life. His thumb hovers over the banking app. He taps it open. The screen displays a zero balance. His jaw tightens. He stares at the number for 3 long seconds, waiting for a digit to appear that never does. With a sharp, sudden movement, he tosses the phone onto the cushions. It slides into a gap between the couch and the wall. He lets out a long, ragged sigh that seems to deflate his posture. He stands, his feet crunching on a discarded receipt, and walks toward the kitchen. The drawer is jammed shut, held by a pile of unused subscription cards that have spilled out over the counter. He grips the handle and yanks it open, revealing a graveyard of small, recurring expenses. He stands there, looking at the mess, his shoulders slumped, the weight of the empty account pressing down on him in the silence of the room. A sharp, electronic chime cuts through the silence of the kitchen. Jake glances toward the corner of the room. A tablet screen, forgotten under a pile of mail, flickers to life. Money Mike appears, his presence immediate and jarring against the backdrop of the cluttered apartment. He points to a digital display floating beside him. A single, thin line tracks across the screen, rising at a sharp, aggressive angle. Mike watches the data for a beat before looking directly into the camera. Most people think wealth requires luck or a massive salary. That is the myth that keeps you stationary. He gestures to the graph, tracing the line with a steady finger. Look at your own reality. You spend $100 on convenience every single month. It feels small, it feels necessary, but look at the trajectory. He taps the screen, highlighting a segment of the line that dips and then flatlines. That money vanishes into thin air. It is not just a purchase. It is a leak in your foundation. Every dollar you trade for temporary comfort is a dollar stolen from your future self. You are paying for your own stagnation. The math of your life is currently working against you, and it is a wound that never stops bleeding. He pauses, letting the words settle into the room, turning the mundane habit of spending into an urgent, visible threat. Jake stares at the drawer, his hand trembling as he digs through the mess. He pulls out a plastic card for a streaming service he has not watched in 6 months. Beside it, a receipt for a monthly snack box sits curled and yellowed. He keeps digging. He finds a gym membership card, the edges frayed, and a subscription for an app he deleted years ago. Each item represents a recurring charge that has been silently draining his account. He lines them up on the counter, creating a row of small, forgotten obligations. The total number of cards grows until it stretches across the entire granite surface. He picks up one, flips it over, and reads the fine print. The price is small, but the cumulative total makes his breath hitch. He looks back at the tablet where the screen still glows. The reality of the previous statement hits home. He had been so focused on the lack of money that he failed to see where it was going. He pushes the drawer shut with his hip, but the cards remain on the counter, a physical monument to his own negligence. The silence of the apartment feels heavier now, charged with the evidence of his choices. He turns toward the laptop, his movements deliberate, the clutter finally serving as a catalyst for a change in direction. Mike shifts his stance, the screen behind him transitioning from the jagged reality of waste to a clean, smooth grid. He taps the glass, and a new line emerges. It starts low, near the base, then curves upward with aggressive, steady momentum. This is not magic, Mike says, his voice cutting through the quiet of the room. This is the architecture of your future. He walks along the grid, his hand tracing the path. You have been told that wealth is a lottery ticket, a stroke of luck, or a massive sudden windfall. That is a lie designed to keep you waiting for an event that will never come. He stops at the peak of the curve, pointing to the distance between the two lines. The difference between where you are and where you could be is not about what you earn. It is about the system you build. He leans in, his expression sharpening. Luck is a variable you cannot control, but a system? That is a choice you make every single day. Stop looking for the big win and start looking for the small, repetitive actions that compound. One line stays flat because it is fueled by impulse. The other rises because it is fueled by discipline. The math is simple, even if the choice is hard. He stands back, letting the image of the rising curve dominate the screen, leaving no room for the excuses Jake had relied upon for years. Mike reaches toward the edge of his desk and pulls a small, packed sphere of ice into the frame. It is tiny, no larger than a marble. He places it on the polished surface of the table, his index finger pressing gently against the side. He pushes it forward. It slides, leaving a faint, wet streak behind it. He stops, then pushes again, faster this time. The snowball rolls over a layer of fine salt scattered across the wood. As it turns, the salt crystals adhere to the surface. He rolls it back, then forward again, his movements slow and rhythmic. With every rotation, the sphere picks up more material, growing unevenly, bit by bit. He does not rush. He lets the camera linger on the way the white grains cling to the icy core. The sound of the ice scraping against the wood is sharp and rhythmic, filling the silence of the office. He rolls it into a wider circle, covering more ground, gathering more substance with every pass. It is a tedious, repetitive motion, yet the snowball is undeniably larger than it was 10 seconds ago. He keeps rolling, his focus locked on the increasing weight of the sphere. The small, marble-sized object is now the size of an apple, dense and stubborn. He stops, his hand hovering over the growing mass, waiting for the final push to demonstrate the true power of the cycle. Mike gives the sphere one final, firm shove. It rolls, with a heavy, solid thud, leaving a deep track in the salt. He reaches out, stops the sphere with his palm, and holds it still. It has transformed from a fragile marble of ice into a dense, substantial weight. He looks directly into the lens. 10 years. That is the timeline of this simple, repetitive motion. You invest $100 every single month. You do not miss a payment. You do not deviate. In a decade, you have $20,000 sitting in your account. He pauses, letting the number hang in the air. He rolls the heavy sphere back toward the center of the desk. But watch what happens when you refuse to stop. You keep that same discipline for 40 years. The math does not lie. You are looking at over $500,000. He taps the top of the sphere, his finger pressing into the cold, packed surface. The calculation is elementary. It requires no genius. It requires no luck. But the discipline? That is where most people fail. They want the result without the repetition. They want the weight without the weight. He leans back, his arms crossing, his gaze steady and unyielding. The math is simple. The choice to stay consistent for 40 years? That is the hardest part of the entire process. Jake sits perfectly still as the screen fades to black, the weight of the numbers lingering in the air of his room. He looks at his laptop, the glow reflecting in his eyes. He does not hesitate. He moves the mouse, the cursor darting across the desk. He opens his browser, clicking through the tabs he keeps pinned for convenience. One by one, he hits the small X in the corner of each subscription window. They vanish. He clears the clutter of his digital life, closing the gates to his monthly waste. His heart rate picks up as he navigates to his banking dashboard. He enters his credentials with precise, deliberate keystrokes. The screen loads, showing the small, stagnant balance that has defined his last year. He ignores it. He scrolls down to the investment section, his finger hovering over the trackpad. The button labeled Auto Invest pulses on the screen, a small blue beacon. He pulls his hand back, then leans in, his breath hitching. He aligns the cursor with the center of the button. He stops. The room is silent save for the hum of the computer fan. He is inches away from changing the trajectory of his life. He steadies his pulse, tightens his grip on the mouse, and holds his position, ready to commit to the path Mike just laid out. The cursor clicks. The sound is sharp, a mechanical snap that echoes in the quiet room. For a second, the screen hangs, the progress bar pulsing in a steady, rhythmic loop. Jake holds his breath. His knuckles are white against the edge of the laptop. The system processes the command, searching the account for the funds, verifying the intent, locking the future into place. Then, the screen flashes. A bright, crisp notification box drops from the top corner of the display. Transfer scheduled. The words sit there, immovable, and final. Jake leans back, his posture sagging as the tension drains from his shoulders. He watches the status indicator flip to active. The cycle of instant spending that defined his previous months has been severed. He stares at the confirmation, his eyes tracing the text. It is not a massive fortune, but it is the first time the needle has moved in the right direction. He taps the screen, closing the notification, and watches as his dashboard updates to reflect the change. The silence in the room no longer feels like stagnation. It feels like the start of something new. He has moved from a passive consumer to an active builder. The path is set. The automatic transfer is locked, and the first brick of his future is firmly in place. Money Mike walks to the window, his gaze scanning the vast grid of the city lights below. He speaks without looking back, his voice steady. Success is not about one big win that changes everything overnight. It is about the choice you make every single paycheck. In his apartment, Jake leans back in his chair. He does not move. He watches his account dashboard, his eyes fixed on the small, recurring icon. It glows a steady, vibrant green, a constant pulse of progress in the quiet room. Money Mike turns back to the camera, folding his arms. The movement is deliberate, final. One person buys items they forget, the other buys assets that grow. The choice is yours to make right now. Jake reaches out, his finger tapping the screen, tracing the curve of the graph that represents his future. He is no longer surrounded by the clutter of his past. The room feels lighter. The weight of his old habits has been replaced by the quiet confidence of a plan in motion. Money Mike leans toward the lens, his expression locked in focus. Hit subscribe, and let us start building your future today. The screen fades, leaving the green icon glowing in the center of the frame, a permanent mark of the path chosen.